Hello class, welcome to our second portion of section 4.2, dealing with some basic concepts in probability. Today we're going to focus on just one topic. There's a homework question or two that you're going to be looking at with this topic, and it deals with what's known as odds. Now, I'm not getting into anything with gambling pieces or anything like that. I just want to make sure that everyone understands that odds are a little bit different than probability. And how they're set up to be able to show you kind of what those numbers are talking about in any odd situation. So when we're talking about odds, typically what we're doing is saying like the ways for or against something, or you win or you lose. So if someone's a big underdog in a game, their odds are very different than if a team is more likely to win. If you've turned 18 and you've bought a lotto ticket, if you look on the back of a lotto ticket, the odds of winning are on there. So they're not all the same. So not every ticket that costs $1 is the same. So also trying to inform you about some things that way. Let's be honest, even if you're going to buy a lotto ticket, you should probably plan on losing. Okay, so this is not some foolproof method to say, oh, great, now I can win the lottery or a scratch off this way. So just want to precursor what we're looking at by saying we're not saying go out and gamble your money away. We're just talking about the topic of odds, and to make sure that we start to understand those pieces as we look through this section. Okay, so odds are typically written in one of two ways: either odds against an event or odds in favor of an event. Most likely it's going to be this first version. So it's the ways it doesn't work versus the ways it does work. Okay, so you want to find the probability that something doesn't work, then divide by the probability it does work. And then typically it's written as a fraction, or excuse me, a ratio, but not as a fraction, but as one with a colon in between. If you want in favor of, you just flip-flop it, okay, and then it would just be the probability you win divided by the probability you lose, okay, and that's what you want to look at for that situation. Once you look at things like, for example, the Kentucky Derby is always coming up in the spring, and if you've ever watched things like that, they have these odds. And what it's saying is, the easiest way to describe it is whatever the first number is, okay, the payoff against that, okay, it's the profit versus how much money you put into it. Okay, so if it was a 5 to 1, that means you're going to make a $5 profit for every $1 you put into the system. Okay, and the lotto ticket idea has that on the back of the cards and things like that. Those types of situations are where that shows up. Okay, so here we go. Again, we're not saying gambling is good or anything about this situation. I just want to make sure we're informed about what the odds are talking about and how to find the difference between them, and also show how places that deal with betting, like a casino, for example, actually make a profit, because they must make a profit, otherwise they wouldn't be doing this. Okay, simple game. You're going to bet $5 to draw a queen out of a deck. The payoff odds given to you are 10 to 1. So we're going to first figure out what the odds should have been and then compare them. So find the probability you draw a queen out of the deck. So there's 52 cards in the deck, 4 of them are queens. So that's a 4 out of 52, which simplifies down to 1 over 13. Which, if that makes sense, each suit there's 1 queen. So it's a 1 out of 13 shot, you're going to pick a queen. The actual odds against are 12 over 13, because there's 12 out of 13 ways to not draw a queen, versus the 1 out of 13 ways to draw a queen. So that, or you could have done 48 over 52 and 4 over 52. From there, okay, the divide by 13s are going to cancel. So it ends up just being the numerators. As long as the denominators are the same, it's just the numerators. And this odds against is 12 to 1, which essentially says there are 12 ways to lose and 1 way to win, which add together to equal the 13 ways to play the game, essentially, because it was a 1 out of 13 shot. Okay, so 12 ways to lose for every 1 way to win. So what would the net profit be if you bet on the queen? Well, this 12 to 1 is not what the company uses to pay you out if you win. They use 10 to 1. And all this is a simple proportion. $10 profit for every $1 bet equals some amount of profit for every $5 bet. And you can just cross multiply it. Now this one's very easy, but if the numbers are a little bit more challenging, you could always cross multiply it, and you'll get a $50 profit, which is saying, all right, I'm going to make $50 if I get that. Now, you don't end up with $50. You actually end up with $55 because you have a $50 profit plus the amount of money you put into the system. So you end up with $55 back, but it's a $50 profit. That seems great if you win, okay, but it should have been $60, and here's why. The actual odds against that we just found here on the left side were 12 to 1. So that's 12 for every 1. Okay, so 12 to 1 equals something to 5. When I cross multiply and solve that one, I should get $60. So the company should have given me, if I win, $60 based on the actual odds of drawing a queen. They only give me $50. And you say, that's a little odd. I wonder where that difference goes. Well, it goes right into their pocket. They have to make sure the company works for a profit. Okay, they have to make sure they don't lose money. Okay, they need to make some money. And so what they do is if you lose, you just lose. And if you win, you're going to end up with a good payout or a good amount of money, but it may not be as much as you should have got, and they'll keep the rest. So that's something that you want to think about when it comes through odd scenarios. Okay, next situation we're going to look at is what's known as a roulette wheel. So if you've ever seen one of those, it's the thing that goes around. It looks like a wheel of fortune type thing, but it has numbers on each of them, and it has red ones and black ones, half are red, half are black. Okay, there's 38 slots. One of them is 0, one is double 0, and then the numbers 1 through 36. That's the 38 slots. Okay, you place a bet that the outcome is going to be an odd number. So let's think about this. Of the 38 slots, okay, you can't include 0 and double 0. That doesn't count for odd or even. And 1 through 36, that's the odd or even. Half of those are odd, half are even. That's where the 18 comes from. It's 18 out of the 38 slots, which simplifies down to 9 out of 19. So the odds against winning are ways you lose versus ways you win. So 9 out of 19 is that you win, which means 20 out of 19, its complement, is ways you lose. So that'd be 10 out of 19 over 9 out of 19. The 19s cancel out because the division by 19 is the same on both, and I get the odds against winning are 10 to 9. So if I play this 19 times, I should expect to lose 10 and win 9, or around that as we keep going further and further. The idea is kind of like relative frequency. The more you go through the process, that's what's going to happen. So 10 to 9 would be the actual odds that you win, or against winning, excuse me. Now the company says, all right, you pick odd or even. If you pick odd, we'll pay you 1 to 1. 1 to 1 is the easiest odds to figure out, which means if you put $1 in, you're going to make $1 profit if you win. So if I put in $18, I'm going to make an $18 profit. Now remember, I don't end up with $18. I end up with $36 because it's my 18 original dollars plus the $18 that I made. Okay, so when you're looking at those situations, like the scratch-off idea, if you've turned 18 and bought a scratch-off, for example, if it's $1 for the ticket and you win $2, well, you didn't make $2. You only made $1 profit because you had to spend the dollar to make money. So that's a simple business concept at that point, but just realize that as you're going through this. So you make $18. If you win, you're feeling good. You just made a profit. But if the payoff odds were what they should have been, it should have been a 10 to 9 ratio as opposed to a 1 to 1 or a 9 to 9 ratio. If you were to cross multiply that and solve, it should have been $20. So instead of the 18, I should have got 20. Well, where'd the extra $2 go? The company keeps it to make sure they make a profit. Okay, so I know odds are confusing. I know it's going to be a little strange to start with. Here's what you want to look at. Find the probability of the event you care about. Find the odds against by finding probability that you lose divided by probability you win, and it should be a ratio of two integers essentially. After that, it's just a cross multiplying with whatever they give you. Okay, so like these two questions, whatever they give you, which should be lower profit-wise compared to what you should have got. If you get a profit that's higher for the first question, like on this slide, versus the second question, well, someone's probably going to get fired from their job wherever they're working because they're paying out more than they should. Okay, the other thing about odds, just to start with, is the spots you're going to see odds probably would be the idea of like the scratch off of the lottery. You see a lot of it in the sports now just with the nature of everything going on. And the third spot is like the Kentucky Derby. If you've ever watched, you don't have to be like a horse racing fan, but if you've seen that, that's where those odds come into play. Those type of ideas also happen for things like awards, like, oh, the odds that so-and-so wins versus someone else for an award. Those situations all come into play. Our goal is not that we are saying, oh, all right, I've got a quick way to make money now that I understand odds. Our goal is to figure out that, okay, even though we understand odds, we also know the company's going to make money on us no matter what. Okay, realize we should expect to lose, which is probably a sign that you don't want to put your life savings into it, for example. Okay, and third, we need to understand what the two numbers are representing in terms of profit and how much you put in for the bet, okay, or whatever situation you're looking at. And the same idea would be true about the actual outcome versus what they give you. So that's just a recap about odds. You just have a question or two about that on your homework. We're going to keep looking at odds periodically throughout the next couple lessons, but then we also want to focus in on the probability questions that we're going to start with in the next section. Have a good day, everyone.